Good morning, Susanne, Joy.
Good morning, Deborah, LeeAnn.
We're continuing. I really do love the ecstatic leader. I'm hanging out with her a lot more. Um, and I was thinking this morning about how each of these leadership archetypes are becoming more and more embodied within me. Are you feeling that too? I really
Yeah,
like playing with their activation sequence. And this week we're talking about
Radiance,
the
the Radiance key, which is gene key 15, and it moves from dullness to fluorescence through magnetism.
and this
The
is
gift of
near and
magnetism.
yeah, this is near and dear to my heart because I don't know about anybody else who has played with this gene key, whether it's in your chart or not. We all have them. But there's something about this dullness that for me, I feel like I put on an invisibility cloak, you know? So it's like I don't really want to be seen. And I think it's an old thing from when I was little. And if I was seen, I would get in trouble or something would happen. So it was a protective thing. So I could just kind of turn off my light and then I would be invisible. And served me really, really well until I became invisible as an adult. And I was like, hey, I'm right here. Hello. And people, it was so ingrained in me that I would be, people could walk right by me and not see me. And I thought, okay, I need to shift this. So it's been a very helpful way for me to learn how to turn on that magnetism. And I really love the way he describes fluorescence with the British English spelling versus our American English spelling. But we think of like fluorescence like neon lights or something. That's what I would think of with fluorescence. And I love his explanation of its exponential flowering of consciousness and yourself. And I went, of course, that would make you magnetic. So there you go.
Yeah.
The mudra
What I also love.
is the vase where your wrists are together and you're like kind of like holding an orb or a vase, and you
Mhm.
just allow that energy to make sure your feet are flat on the floor and your knees are bent if you're standing, just to feel the grace.
And I love the way Richard Rudd, and this is through Gene Keys, written by Richard Rudd. He talks about fluorescence follows nature's own wild, organic rhythms, which demand an attitude of trust, surrender, and childish delight.
Well, that makes sense. So make sure your wrists are attached as you hold your vase and your container, and just imagine that you are a flower that is continuing to open exponentially forever, continuing to open. And you know, one of the things that I've been playing with for the last 10 years is this constant mantra of mine that is open and soften. And it feels so yummy to do that mudra. So I know that that's something I'm going to need to remember when I'm feeling invisible.
Well, it's interesting. This key or this gate in human design is called compassion, and the I Ching of it is modesty.
Okay, so how does that play? So you're going to show
Well,
up in modesty? What, I don't know.
yeah, I guess. I mean, that's the demure, I guess, feeling, or um, it is about the love of humanity. So fluorescence is that effervescence. I feel like it's a huge aura
Yes,
presence, and
it's soft enough, which is where the magnetic things comes. Because sometimes you can be around people with big energy, and it's off-putting, it doesn't feel soft to your system, whereas this is soft and beautiful, which welcomes in. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where when you said trust, surrender, and
And
childish delight, I'm like, well, that's yummy. I want to play in that playground,
well, and it's in the G center, which is the self, the solar plexus kind of area of the body graph and the human design.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah.
Okay. So I love that that's the key that we're talking about, because when we start to go down the path of how does this key play in this pulse this week, which is Gene Key 47,
Wow.
and that's oppression to transfiguration through the pathway of transformation, right?
Transmutation.
Transmutation. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was having a conversation with John this morning about oppression and about how we all carry it, and it's how our karma shows up in our life. So there can be all kinds of stuff and suffering. So there can be all kinds of stuff that is going on in our lives. And you're like, why is this all happening to me? But when we stop the external oppression, then it's all internalized, and we get to still transmute it, but we're playing with it where it doesn't have to be out there, showing up externally, maybe as illness or a car accident or any of those things. But there's still work being done as we play with it, and that how this suffering is not something that is unique to us. It can't, and it's not our individual stuff, that it came with this, I love how he calls it, this vehicle. So that made me feel like, oh, I didn't create the karma for all this to be happening, or for me to be going through all this, or burning away is how I kind of imagine it. It's something I inherited, right? So I want to ask you about that. Does that feel like it's the ancestral stuff that was passed on? Is this the ancestral healing that we're dealing with?
I definitely believe that a lot of us, that's what we came to do, is clear that ancestral patterning. A pattern interrupts.
Okay.
And clear away some of that energy that we just don't need anymore.
Yeah, he calls it junk DNA, which I find it's like stuff that we inherited that we're like, it's not really necessary. But I think that's what those of us that are on the planet and consciously aware of what we're doing right now, we're kind of like transmuting that, right? We're shifting that, healing that, so that that energy can be put into what we need to move forward. So I don't know. What are your thoughts around transmutation? Like, how does transmutation and magnetism play together? Those are the two gifts. I mean, well, do we talk, I guess, about oppression and
Illness.
I can't even say it. That's horrible.
Oh,
Yeah,
illness. I mean,
dullness and oppression. I can see how they kind of like uh how they feed each other.
Yeah, but it's like with oppression, one part of it is hopeless. Like you just give up the ghost and just is like, well, it's a mental collapse, it's overwhelmed, and so there's that it feels very dull or flat, right? And the reactive nature is dogmatic. It's oppressing, trying to project it on other people, because they're so fearful. I mean, and that's really what it comes down to, is the only reason why this stuff is looping is because of fear.
Right, because we reinforce it through our electromagnetic system and through the neuro pathways, and we continue to do the same thing. So what would be ways to recognize that loop and interrupt it?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, because I haven't. So I felt it. Yes, I felt this anxiousness, this fear, and it was like in my root. It was really old, and I was like, okay, what are you needing? Because I've felt this before, but I don't know that that's really necessary. I mean, there's a lot of trust in the universe. There's a lot of being able to relinquish what you think needs to happen in this now moment. And remember, this is now just a moment. So let's just be present to this moment and say, is this really true? Is this really true for you right now, Susanne? And I said, of course not. Like, I know myself. And I was like, well, that is an old story then. That's something that's coming up to be seen, right? And to transmute into something different. And it doesn't have to write the script of an old way of being. We can then choose a different way of being, but you can feel it in your body.
Right. So this is something that I played with 10 years ago when I first did the energy school, magic school stuff, is we would go to the source of it and we would figure out where it came from and whose energy was it, and sending it back to them with love and all that. And I'm like, we're skipping all those steps now. And this is what I like, is I don't need to know whose this is, where it came from. All I need to know is I'm here. I feel you. I acknowledge you. And I'm here to stop trying to fix you, but allow you to open and transmute, right? Yeah. So that was fascinating. So thank you for saying that in a way that is soft and opening, because I think very often I get, and this is my spiritual arrogance speaking, is I should know better. I've already handled this. Like, this critical person from within comes up, and that voice, which then keeps the loop moving. It activates and adds fuel to the fire. And I'm like, so how do I find, the soft?
Yeah. Oh, hi, old friend.
Yeah. But, love and compassion. It's kind of like, I watched a squirrel yesterday going down my railing on my front porch, and he hopped over onto the table where I've got some plants, and I get really upset because I don't want him digging in my plants to put the seeds in. And I'm like, okay, he's doing what he's doing. You're not going to teach him. You're not going to make him stop. So I just, and I noticed how I got upset, and I went, okay, let's transmute that. I don't need that. First of all, I don't have enough energy to be managing this whole system and the squirrel's energy too.
Exactly.
With the electric, let me take care of the world politics, and then I'll get it, So it's like, right. Who am I trying to, fool here? Yeah. So speaking of, do you want to see what the transfiguration mudra is?
Sure.
So when we're playing with this oppression and wanting to do the transmuting of it, what I love about this is it's a very to me, it feels very active, this mudra. So you take your fingers and you weave them together, but you have them so that your fingers are facing down. And then you place them on top of your head so that each finger is touching your scalp. And I think if you really know your pulse points, you can probably arrange to get to them, but it doesn't matter because they're still opening. So what we're doing is we are allowing ourselves to be opened and to be transfigured.
Mm.
And as we breathe in, he said it's super important that we breathe all the way down into the belly, which is the alchemic bowl of, where we shift things, energy. It's also known as the crown of thorns because my fingernails are digging in. I don't think I need to be quite so hard on this. But when we are wearing this crown, it does feel like we're opening. It also reminds me of a lot of science fiction movies where they put those things on your head to mine or to do a brain extraction or whatever, transplant. So when we're wanting, and so I'm going to try that the next time that I'm feeling this energy that I'm like, oh, this is something I'd like to move on out, to make room for what does want to come in how because we're going through evolution so quickly right now, that why not open and create more space?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that 30-day challenge of, can you get rid of a bag of stuff every single day? Bag of trash, bag of donations, bag of recycling. Making space.
Making space, right. And this, when you feel into this being of transmutation or this pulse in human design, it's all on mindset. That's it's on mindset. And the I Ching is oppression. And I love the fact that it is trusting yourself enough to open your mind, basically your third eye, opening that part of you that trusts in life, that is your natural ability to hear things that you need to hear to take the actions. At least that's how I'm feeling it too, is like,
opened your mind, your system, your awareness, your ability to hear and see things beyond our normal human capabilities. I like that, because I think we do need to start using our
those are our gifts.
I was going to call them our superhuman abilities, which we have been enculturated not to. They aren't as valued as what our physical eyes can see. And we had a very loud discussion this morning around the science of what's proven, and how do we allow in something that's not scientifically proven. To me, I said, I know, because I can feel in my system this is true.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm playing in that field of infinite intelligence, I don't have to understand the scientific.
No, that's the measure. And when I look in Karen Curry Parker's, hers says her lesson or challenge for this gate is to become skilled at a mindset of openness and possibility, to not let inspiration die because you just don't know how to fulfill it. Because that's it, right? Your responsibility is to stay open and tune in, right? And you're not going to say, oh, just can't, because I don't have any idea how that's going to happen. You don't worry about the how. You just do you and take the steps.
Fascinating. Yeah. And it goes to a conversation I had over the weekend about inspiration, and about how I very often will close that door. And it's also my imagination, that beautiful gift I have of imagination, that I then go, okay, well, that's nice for the sketchbook or for that dream, but to take it into my life and actually plant the seeds of it and allow it to grow feels like it takes a lot more faith in the unknown.
Well, and it doesn't happen overnight sometimes, but the
Right.
seed may be planted. There are seeds that I've planted, I don't know how many years ago, and I'm seeing inklings of it.
Yeah.
So, it's like you just don't know. And there are some where you plant it and you feed it and you feed it and you feed it and you let it mature quickly. And others are the long game. They're the oak that's going to be
Yeah.
taking a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's not a fast growing tree.
Like
So,
my lemon tree. Oh my gosh, a foot tall in 1 year. Amazing to me. So I have a question for you regarding how can we invite those who have one or the other or both of these keys in their chart. I mean, to continue playing with. I mean, I'm looking at the words of the gifts, right? So if we're playing in magnetism or magnetic and transmutation, so how does magnetic transmutation feel in you? Hi, kitty cat. He's going to tell you.
mm-hmm. I guess we magnetized them. I would say that it's burning away anything. It's attracting the things that we need to burn away anything that's no longer needed.
Oh, that's funny because I'm thinking that we're opening with the transmuting into the energy, like by calling in the energy,
Yeah.
we in comes whoever that was, one of your cats, and
Yeah.
and then then we're magnetic to what we're wanting to call in. So I did it the opposite, but I like it how that we they still intermesh
Yeah.
beautifully, as
It's
they
the
all
alchemy
do.
of life.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's the alchemy of life. And so,
I love
yeah.
that. So, any other words or affirmations or a card or what would come forth to allow us to really, if we're going to tune in to the ecstatic leader and really embody these energies, these essences? I love that, the fluorescence. Um, what are some ways to support us in doing that? First thing that comes up to me is that I want to allow it. I think
Mm.
I really fight sometimes going, oh, well, who do you think you are being an ecstatic leader and wanting to be fluorescent? I mean, and I'm like, but I want that. So that,
Yeah.
that feels like it opens it, you know?
I just pulled a card and it says, hey, life is simple and easy. And on the back of the card says, all that I need to know at any given moment is revealed to me. I trust myself and I trust life. All is well.
Oh my goodness.
Can
So,
we just remember?
oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Thank you. I just put on some supermint to plant that in there. Um, beautiful. Can't wait. So next week we will go into the purpose key of the ecstatic leader and play in whatever the pulse is next week, which I don't remember. But then the next week after, we are going to do an integration session where we will invite you to come in and play with the ecstatic leader within you. And how do we take all of these last 4 weeks of gifts uh, and kind of, yeah, have a dance party with them. So, and if you have any questions or thoughts that you'd like to add to the conversation, please do so. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Thoughts?
Till next time.
Okay.